Doing motorcycles powered by those V twins, why we enjoy it, what they mean to us, and just why we enjoy the open road. V Twin Life is brought to you by CrashInClothing.com, also known as Crash Inc. on the World Wide Web. Man, Brad is on a lot of stuff. You want to get some merchandise, you want to get parts, you want to upgrade stuff on your bike. He is a dealer for a lot of great companies, so check out CrashInClothing.com and see what they got for you. Now, we got Wild Ass. You want to add some comfort to your ass? Man, Wild Ass has got you covered. They've got something you like. Use that promo code DWoods. Get yourself free shipping and put that ass in comfort. Can't forget Custom Dynamics, leading the world in LED lighting and LED technology. Man, these got some great stuff. You want to light up your life at nighttime? You want to be seen during the day? Hey, check out Custom Dynamics. Can't forget Lexan. These guys got some great comm units. I just got the new G16s. Man, you want to talk quality? These things are awesome. Loudspeakers, plus they got some air pumps, small ones you keep in your bike. They're ready to go. So check out Lexan. So now, let's get to another milepost of the V-Twin Life. Okay, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the V-Twin Life. Tonight we got milepost 125. I think it's a good solid number. Tonight we got Mr. Gunnar Johnson out of Colorado joining us. He's a long-distance endurance riding guy that just loves to get out and ride and enjoys the long-distance riding of life. So, hey, welcome to the show, Gunnar. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Hey, thanks, Denver. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I figured it'd be a lot of fun. I know there's a couple guys that recommend you, thought you'd be a great guest, and we talked for a while on the phone the other day. It's like, man, you got to stop talking because you're coming up with a lot of great aspects. I'm trying to take notes. Like, we need to touch on this stuff because I made that mistake before once a few times. I think one was Jason Setzer. We talked for like 2 hours on the phone the day before and get to the podcast like, what are we going to talk about?
He kind of ran out of stuff, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah,
well, I'm glad to be here with you.
Shoot. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and like I said, thanks for taking time out of your Sunday and coming to hang out.
Yeah, very cool. Well, there's nothing more I love talking bikes, so this is a great opportunity to hang out, do this.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of dive in like I'd like to do with everybody is, where did motorcycles come into life for you? Where did it start?
I had a dad who still rides to this day, and he started me really young. There's pictures of me on his 77 GS 750 Suzuki where I'd put my hands on the gas tank. Little bitty guy, had a little helmet. I was only like 2 years old in the backyard riding on a dirt bike with him or riding on the street, much to my mom's chagrin. So, man, from as long as I can remember, I've been on two wheels.
That's funny. My second street bike that I owned was an 83 GS 750 ES.
Great bikes. I mean, they were back then when the universal Jap motorcycles were popular with that 4-cylinder engine, and everybody loved those things. Good bikes.
That's very true. So what kind of steamed you towards? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to tell you a funny story. I had to call and confirm this with my mom, make sure it passed the BS test. My dad had told me that he and I were riding kind of flat track style around a circle in the backyard, and we crashed. And I was only about 18 months old, sitting on the front of the motorcycle, sitting in front of him, holding on the gas tank. And the bike slid up under the fence, and I rolled with my dad. And wasn't injured or anything, but it was funny. It was funny that I can imagine being a dad now myself. My wife would have killed me, and my mom almost killed my dad in that situation. But I called her, and she had the same recollection that he did. And I thought, I could think back to the memory banks and remember what it was like to see that bike go up underneath the fence. And I was worried about the machine and not so much me. But yeah, that's where I got my start on dirt bikes.
So did you so your background started with riding dirt bikes when you were younger?
Yeah, I also, jumped from that to when I was able to put my feet on the ground. I got an XR75 Honda, and I rode that all over the neighborhood suburban streets of the Dallas-Fort Worth areas where I grew up, and I rode that like my bicycle. All the other kids had bicycles. I was cruising around a little dirt bike, and that's how I grew up.
No, I think it was my second bike was a Honda XR100. I rode the heck out of that thing everywhere.
Yeah,
those old Honda XRs, they're hard to kill. Yeah.
Yeah, they run forever. And we lived next to if anyone's familiar with the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we live in Euless, right close to the DFW airport, where Highway 360 had a bunch of dirt bike trails back in the late 70s and then through the 80s. They closed them down at some point in the 90s, but there's tons of trails and dirt bike stuff going on there. Well, I'd leave my house with my dad and a couple of gas cans. I'd follow him through the neighborhood. We'd end up in the trails just 5 miles down the road or so. And that's how I grew up. And those are some of my earliest memories.
That's awesome. It's cool to see, how a fair amount of people, it seems like, that I've, been able to get to know through doing this. It's maybe a 50-50 split of a lot of them grew up doing dirt bikes and a lot of them didn't, but it's so fun to see how, or, not so much see, but hear how people got into riding motorcycles. Living up here in the Northwest, some motorcycles, dirt bikes are very common up here for a lot of people, just in the area where I live up on the Olympic Peninsula. But it's it's fun to see how people got into it, because we all came into it at different points in life and in different aspects. And it's cool to, kind of hear people's backgrounds of how they found life on two wheels.
Well, one time my wife and I, we were having a little bit of a dispute. I've been married for almost 28 years. And, if you've been married a long time, you know how these go. And I wanted my kids to ride dirt bikes. I've got 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. I wanted them to be on the bike. She's okay with them riding on the back with me, but she didn't want them to pilot their own. I wanted them to have their own. Well, we're having dinner with this couple from our church, and the guy says, "Oh man, I'm turning 50. I've never ridden a motorcycle." And my wife was shocked. She's like, "Well, how does she said it in a nicer way than this, but she's like, "Well, how does a grown man not know how to ride a motorcycle?" Kind of giving him a hard time, and he's like, "Well, man, I just never was allowed." And so we get into the car after that dinner, and he's still kind of thinking like, that's so strange, because from the time we were dating, and I've always been on a bike. And I said, "Well, Missy, listen, when a mommy won't let a boy ride a bike, he turns into a 50-year-old man who knows nothing about motorcycles." And she's like, "Okay, you can get a dirt bike for you and Eli, my now 18-year-old son." And that weekend, I went out and purchased two bikes off of Facebook Marketplace, a KDX 200 and a DRZ 125 for him. And man, we tore up the tracks and ran around chasing each other for a handful of years after that. So
that's cool.
I think
it is fun.
I think you're spot on. Most of us learned to ride from our dads. I mean, didn't your dad teach you to ride?
My stepdad actually taught me how to ride. He got me into dirt bikes, and my dad, he was never into dirt bikes, but he rode on the street. I can remember, I think the first memory I have of him with a bike was and he had an 83 Honda Shadow 750. And I know he had a couple before then, but I don't have memories of those because I was, really young. But I remember that one. He rode that bike until, man, the mid 90s at least, before then he got his 1100 Shadow and had that for a while. And he got his first Harley. And I remember he was trying to sell it. And we used to ride the Lawman 1000. It was they were an organization. They did a lot of money. They would ride for different charities. I think they would split it up in 3-year groups, like the Fred Hutchinson's Burn Society. They rode for the PICC, which was the Pediatric Interim Care Center that took care of drug addicted newborn babies. And I rode the Lawman with him a few times, and he had done it for quite a while. And I remember one trip, he's like, "Hey, why don't you ride the Shadow?" He goes, "I want to try to sell it, and I'll take my Harley." So I rode his, the 1100 Shadow when he was trying to sell it after he got his first Harley.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well,
yeah, I think the first trip,
my progression. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, bro.
No, I remember the first trip he had his Shadow, and I was riding an 83 Honda Sabre. I had the V45 750 Sabre. And that was the first trip I ever took with my dad, which the cool thing, we lived here because that must have been like 2001. And we had a picture. I mean, my wife took a picture of my dad and I in the driveway. And then when my son got his bike, his V-Star, when we went to ride over to South Dakota in 2022, because we went for the Hoka Hay send-off, we basically, my son and I recreated that same picture in the driveway,
Oh, that's
which I
too
thought was
cool.
really
Great
cool.
memories.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is. I'll have
man.
to send you those. You can take a look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. Well, after I had dirt bikes and such, I had a 125 and a 175 Honda dirt bike. My dad had worked out some deal with a buddy where he bought a shipping container and had it put in our backyard. I think we had two of them, but they were full of Honda 125s, 100s. So they were XLs, XRs, and a bike called a CL 125. And some of the motors I think went up to 175 because I always looked for those, but they were in that plastic wrap that had the oil and crap in it. And so he had these shipping containers full of bike parts. I mean, they were complete bikes, but they weren't assembled. And so I grew up taking bike parts into the garage from those shipping containers and putting them together. And my dad would build the motors. He's an engine builder and really good mechanic. And I learned from probably 8, 9, 10 years old how to pull the engines out of those and put another in because I like to ride wheelies on those bikes and I'd seize up the motor after a while. And so I push it back into the garage. My dad would pull another engine off the shelf and he's like, you got to put it in. And he'd help me get the timing and everything right. But I'd swap my own motors and he'd have a stack of them blown up and then rebuild a bunch of them on a weekend. And that's how I grew up, man. I just thought it was normal.
So if you did that, do you do a lot of your own maintenance then when it comes to your bike, or do you still have, a split, dealer do some and you turn wrenches on them?
It depends on the time. I do enjoy turning wrenches. I heard someone once say if you work with your mind, like if your job is with your mind, then you relax with your hands. So that's how I am. I've been in ministry, I've been a pastor, I've been a business owner, and I just sometimes need to just unplug and go work with my hands in the garage. I like to do my own maintenance and all that. But there's times like I just had my bike at Jerry, our local Harley mechanic, works out of his garage. Excellent mechanic. I took my bike there and dropped it off for a couple of weeks to have him do everything that would stop me from riding the heck out of it when the snow melts. And he had me all fixed up. So yeah, I kind of split it. Depends on what's needed.
Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of stuff in my dad's shop, and there were some upgrades. Like last year, I was fortunate, but buddy Brad Columbus, who owns Crash Inc., he'd had got picked up a brand new set of forks that were going to be for one of his buddies in California, and Victor had wrecked his roadglide, and so they had the forks, and so Victor, gave me a heck of a deal. So, dude, just go get them. They're sitting in Brad's shop, and Brad's like, dude, just bring it down because he's got quite the shop at his house. So I'm like, well, shoot, if we're going to replace forks, and I'm going to grab new wheel bearings, I'm going to get new neck bearings and, put new pads. Like, you're stripping everything off the front. To me, it's like, man, this is stupid not to replace all the stuff that's right there while you have everything off. It's like, yeah, let me grab a few parts and, worked it out on a weekend where I could go down there, and it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's funny when I had gotten a couple tickets on the road as I got to be older. These were street legal bikes. We had license plate on them. It's what I rode to junior high and into high school. When I turned 15, I bought a 78 CB 750, the old single overhead cam bike. And that's what I rode. I went and got my car license and my motorcycle license on the very same day. And I rode that motorcycle to school, had it all stripped down, painted everything black. And it was a really sweet ride. I had a windscreen I'd stick on the front in the winter when it got cold. I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area still, so they can have some pretty good cold snaps, but mostly it's pretty decent riding weather all year round until it gets super hot. But my dad had at that time when I had my 78 CB 750, my dad bought a Suzuki Intruder 800, and that was a pretty cool bike, shaft drive and V-twin, liquid cooled. And he and I would ride all over the place. And my parents had gone through a divorce, and life was a little weird through my high school years. But I left home at a pretty early age and started running around with my buddies and everything. And we all had kind of late 70s, early 80s Japanese motorcycles. And I mean, we take off and go on long road trips and camp off of our bikes, even in high school. I think I put 50 or 60,000 miles on that CB 750. But that was my life, man. You imagine my poor wife when I started dating her. She was only 15. I had just turned 18, and I've got a van that I had rebuilt, and I've got a motorcycle. It's like, which one do you want your daughter riding on? The van or the motorcycle?
You know,
Yeah.
those
Now being a
old,
dad of girls, I don't know, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
those old 750, the old CB single cams. I have a couple buddies. I used to do a lot of hill climbing when I was younger, my late early teen years, well, through my younger teens into my late teenage years. And there is a company, I don't know what it is offhand, that makes a split cam for those old single overhead cam for those 750s and makes them fire as a twin. And it makes
Oh,
the
really?
most, oh my God, they sound so wicked. It is impressive the sound those inline fours will make because it sounds nothing like a four. It sounds like a V twin. Yeah, it's split. And
That's
it is,
awesome.
oh, they are impressive. It's such a unique sound.
Someone gave me one of those. It had been outside in California for a long time. So here, probably 5 years ago, someone gave one to me and shipped it to my house. And I tinkered with it for a while. It's going to be way too much money to get running again. I ended up selling it, but I had all these, you know, dreams of turning it into a cafe racer and having one to run around on again. I mean, just the memories of seeing those green gauges looking back at me with the little tree, the diamond tree, the orange and blue and red, and I mean, they're just a really classic bike. Love to have one again someday.
So it sounds like you kind of got the long distance riding bug kind of at an early age.
Yeah, my personality's wired where if a little bit's good, a whole lot better is a lot better. So, I can get a bit obsessive about anything. So yeah, when I started roaming around the country on my motorcycle, I went from that CB 750 to a CBR 1000 out of high school, and man, I
Ooh.
could cover some distance on that thing. It's the early sport touring. It's 1996 CBR 1000, and that was a
Was
great
that
bike.
was that
So
before the
yeah,
hurricane?
yeah, it was right. It was right after the hurricane. Um, yeah, if you the CBR 1000, it's about 1992. They switched over 92, 93. They went to the next CBR 1000, which was it dropped the Hurricane name. It was before the Fireblade and the CBR 900, and then the really awesome lightweight CBR 1000. This one was
Mm-hmm.
more of a sport tourer. It sort of evolved into the Blackbird, Honda Blackbird. So yeah, it was a fun bike to go far and fast on.
I always wanted to get one of the old Honda 996 Superhawks. Just
Ooh,
had that distinctive sound,
wonderful.
and yeah, much like the old Suzuki, the TL 1000s, which were just had that very distinctive sound. I mean, not quite Ducati Aprilia age, but it was just the sound they made was just so unique. Put a
Yeah,
nice
I
Two Brothers
remember
or
in the
D&D
nine.
exhaust.
Yeah, spot on. I remember when this TL 1000 came out and it was like the half naked bike. And that was like 97, 98. And man, those were the bomb. And then they turned it into more of a sport bike. And that one wasn't that great. But the Super Hawk, I think they called that 1000, the Honda version of it. That was a super fun time of time of bike development in the late 90s. And you're right, man. Throw a good pipe on those things. They sounded amazing. Of
Oh,
course,
it
they're all
did.
chasing the 916 Ducati, and
What was the
totally
other
not
one?
in the same class. But
The Honda RC51.
yep, that was a beautiful bike. That big air intake right in the front of it,
Mm-hmm.
twin headlights, wonderful bike. I much to my chagrin, I do run across those on Facebook Marketplace from time to time, and I keep trying to figure out how to sweet talk my wife into letting me have another sport bike, but she's not really a fan of me on a fast bike anymore. you know,
Yeah.
Missy and we actually started. That was our date thing. We started riding together at 15 and 18, and we were all over the country. And so she's been on the bike with me for over 30 years. But we went from when I bought that CBR 1000, I bought her a Suzuki RF 600. which is basically that detuned GSXR 600 motor. It was indestructible, great bike, not super fast for a 600. The R6 was coming out, the CBR 600, F3 was out. It was F2, then F3. But that RF 600 was kind of more on the sport touring side. And that was her bike. And she got her license and learned to ride that. So we were cruising around as a young married couple in like 96, 97, 98 on a couple of sport bikes.
So is that kind of like the Katana?
It was a little more sporty than the Katana. It had these Ferrari Testarossa. Yeah, like the Ferrari Testarossa fins. They made a 900 version of it as well. Pretty cool looking bike.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I'm trying to remember it. So yeah.
You'll have to Google it sometime. It's you don't see a whole lot of them out there anymore, but they were good machines because their underpinnings, they were based off that GSXR liquid cooled 4-cylinder motor. They either dropped it from a 1,000 to a 900 or detuned for mid range for that 600. It was a great bike, a lot of fun. We actually had that. I totaled that bike in like let's see, it would have been 2006, I think. A guy ran a stoplight and hit me on it right before our son was born. So it would have been 2005. So yeah, not a good call to make to my pregnant, very, very pregnant wife. Sorry, honey, I'm fine, but I've been run over.
Well, that's like the Suzuki TL1000. That got detuned, and that became the engine of the V-Strom 1000.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to see those still putting around out there. I'd really love to have one.
Oh, me too.
The TL really, that kind of hit a special chord in my heart when I was in my early 20s. So,
I think the V-Strom, it's a great introduction style, somewhat adventure touring. I mean, that's how they classed it, but I've always been a fan of them. I just like the looks, and I've seen a lot of people ride them. You follow different people on social media that just love them.
Yeah, and then I was racing lightweight superbike in my 20s, and so they came out with an SV 650, and that competed against the Kawasaki EX 500, and they were a lot of fun. People were swapping the front ends to, Gixxer front ends, and they weren't super fast, but they were super reliable. And you got to learn how to go smooth before you can learn to go fast. So if you can go around a corner really well, you can start going a little quicker with a good fast bike. So
those SV 650s and the 1000, they had a wicked rear taillight. It was just really cool design that they put on those.
Yeah, really cool bikes. They weren't that expensive either, so they were reasonably priced bikes to get into the racing scene. But
they weren't so much, I think, high performance.
Yeah, not so. Yeah, you could convert them into high performance.
Oh yeah,
a little bit of high performance, but not too crazy. But I raced a RZ 350 Yamaha in a lightweight superbike. So that was, I campaigned that for a handful of years, and that was a ton of fun. That motor, the RZ 350, it was a liquid cooled twin cylinder 2-stroke motor. It's now what's in the Yamaha Banshee 4-wheeler. So and mine had been totally worked over by an engineer that worked for Porsche. So at the time, I'd moved from the Dallas-Fort Worth area down to Southwest Florida, and this guy had cut the reeds off the front of the intake and welded YZ490 reeds on it. So it had a really big set of carburetors, had these big reeds. It had a Falco knife edged polished crank in it, so it revved super fast. And it as a little 350, it put out almost 75 horsepower, but the bike was super light. I could pick it up and put it in the back of my truck. So I actually won quite a few lightweight superbike races until the bike that I couldn't beat with a good rider was the R6. When the Yamaha R6 came out, it just totally outclassed everybody. But short tracks, man, I could give everyone a run for their money on that 2-stroke.
Oh, I
I
bet. Those,
they kicked
that
me out of
350
the.
motor.
It was super fun, like wheelie and third gear type fun. They kicked me out of the antique. There was like an antique league with the league was CCS out of Florida. They're still running around Florida, but yeah, they wouldn't let me race in the vintage class because the bike was too fast, too modified. But,
Well, those Banshees,
yeah,
God, those
fun
things were
times.
insane. Man, they would go just scream.
Yeah, just imagine slapping one of those in a small sport bike. It was a ton of fun.
Holy, yeah. That's, yeah, that's a lot.
Mine was a Kenny Roberts replica, but we had bought an aftermarket fairing that was like a TZ 250 looking fairing. So the little GP bike. And so it looked like that. But it was, I don't even remember what year that might have been bike might have only been an 88 or 90. I can't
So,
remember.
So was it yellow and black?
It was in its original colors. Yep.
Okay.
But mine was all white, like a billboard, sponsors, please apply here type
Oh,
thing.
yeah. So you must have been a fan of the Isle of Man TT racing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you remember the British bike magazine performance bike and superbike?
I don't think so.
So back in the day they were known for really crazy antics, and so they would race Isle of Man and Silverton, all the Brit or, yeah, Silverthorne maybe. They'd race all the British scenes and they were always riding wheelies. And they kind of made our American journalist magazines like Cycle World, Motorcyclist look really lame in comparison because these guys are like running top speed and doing crazy stuff, fun stuff. But yeah, that was yeah. I remember the Isle of Man. I've never. Have you been over there for that?
No, I never have. I think it'd be cool to go there, but I mean, granted, you're only going to see split seconds of everything, but that is, I think it's kind of on a bucket list to just see it and see how, just to go.
Yeah, I worked out of London for a number of years. So while I was over there, I had written a book and written some curriculum, and my business partner was based in Surrey, which is south of London. So I was over there a lot. And one of the trips that I went over, mostly speaking in churches and doing consulting, I snuck out to a place called the Ace Cafe.
Oh, I know
Um,
exactly what you're talking about. That would be a dream to go
yeah,
there.
and it's like a big bike museum. It's sort of like going to a Hard Rock Cafe, but it's all old motorcycle related. Because back in the day, they had the ring road around London, and they'd take these bikes, these Triumphs and Bonnevilles and Nortons, and they'd strip everything off of them to make them as light as possible to go really, really fast. And then they'd race around that loop, and then they'd end up back at the Ace Cafe, where winner takes all type thing. And it was just their weekly sort of in America, we came out of World War II, and our guys jumped into motorcycle clubs, and we got into Harleys and all that kind of stuff. But in the UK, they got into more sporty type sport bike racing and such like that, which then evolved into things like the Isle of Man, and they've always had a crazy performance edge in England compared to normal riding over here. So
Well, the Aces Cafe is old too. That was actually a bombing target of the Germans in World War II.
oh really?
Yeah,
No
I did some
surprise.
research and was a big fan of it, and I had sent them some emails. This was years ago. I mean, now I've got rid of my classic beer fridge that I had forever out here in the shop. Died, but they sent me some Aces Cafe stickers, and I had one
Oh, that's cool.
on the door of my old beer fridge.
I still got some Ace Cafe shirts, and I'd stuck stickers all over one of my Harleys, but of course that one got used and then sold, and couldn't keep the sticker. But yeah, man, those are good memories. That's
Oh,
fun.
I bet. I bet. So, what do you think? Why do you enjoy traveling so much by motorcycle? What is it that just gets you?
I think it's a soul connection between just being out in Mother Nature and having the smells, the breezes, the different weather we encounter. I mean, it's an adventure, and I think, God made us for adventure, and so I love to travel primarily by bike. In fact, the ministry I work with now is called Youth for Christ. It's an evangelism ministry for teens and such, but we've got 130 chapters around the country, and I'm traveling a bit. And one of the things I asked them, I said, can I like turn in my gas receipts instead of mileage, because mileage is 60 something cents a mile. That's too much, but they let me do that. And so I ride all over the country, showing up to chapters and doing different things with like donors and stuff. But like I'll leave out on the 2nd, which is I think Monday, maybe March 4th, which is Monday. And I'm riding from here, Colorado, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And man, it's my favorite way to get around for a lot of reasons. One is it just lets me unplug my mind, and I've got a headset like everybody else, and I can listen to my phone calls. I can take business calls while I'm on the road, but I generally just kind of try to just think about life and enjoy the ride and the music and everything else. But yeah, there'd be a big piece of me missing if I couldn't travel by motorcycle everywhere.
Well, I bet I can imagine with the amount of travel you do, how motorcycling can tie into it. Now with your career, you do a lot with Christian Youth Ministries. Is there ever any stereotype, or you catch people off guard when you pull up there in your Harley, dressed up in the biker garb that we all wear?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we work with troubled kids, so the group of volunteers and staff and leaders are they're really cool and edgy and fun. So it's not your stuffy church crowd, but yeah, when I show up as a vice president from the national office here in Denver, and I'm on a Harley and I've got the look and whatever, it immediately lowers a wall for them. They're like, oh, okay, this guy's all right. I smoke cigars, I drink whiskey, I love good craft beer. I'm probably more like Jesus than your regular religious type these days. I remind people
Turn water into wine.
What's Jesus's? Yeah, that's Jesus's first miracle is water into wine. So I may offend a few on that one, but hey, look it up. That's true. Yeah, I do enjoy. I enjoy the breaking of the stereotype, as I'm a relational guy. I'm real relational with Jesus. I'm not a very religious guy. I mean, I've been a church pastor for 14 years, and I'm more interested in the individuals than I am in building a church. So per se, so it's yeah, man, I love that I can be real and just kind of run around the country on a bike, and no judgmental stuff with my groups.
Which it's cool.
If someone's offended by my tattoos and the fact I ride a Harley, that's probably not the religious group I'm going to hang out with anyways.
Yeah. And I could see how maybe, if you're dealing with, like you say, troubled youth, and, they see you coming up like they are, they might think, well, okay, maybe, he's, maybe they think, you can relate or make it easier to be approached, more approachable.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is that way for sure. And, I didn't think about it at the time when I first got hired. I've only been with Youth for Christ for a year. Before that, I had a construction company, and before that, I was consulting, and had a consulting business for a number of years, and then had a 14-year run as a pastor. So when I first was interviewing, I didn't really think about the connection pieces. I just thought, you know what? I'm used to riding around the country now, and this is what I do. And so if they're going to hire me, this is who they get, like it or not, it's just part of me. And they loved it. So, and then as I rode around, I realized, yeah, this is a real advantage. People are more approachable when you're just a regular guy than people are nervous around call them religious professionals, pastors and stuff like that. People get really uptight anyway. So anything I can do to make them just relax a little bit and be normal, it's great.
No, I like that. It's a good point. I know it's like when we were talking last week, you brought up a good point of, yourself. I mean, we had, a common ground for both of us where we enjoy long distance riding. And you brought up the point, it's like, you yourself and I were, we're very close in age. And you look at a lot of the other people, within that group of people that like it, throw, say, Michael Wrongway and Go Home Ken, who are, much older gentlemen than you or I. Well, I don't want to age them and make it sound like we're calling them old, but
Oh, those guys are super old. Come on.
Just kidding. But man, if I could ride as much as they did, that'd be awesome. But no, you brought up a great point, is guys. How we're like the younger group, the younger people in that group. There's not a lot of people under us that have found that passion or that enjoy that part of motorcycle riding, or they haven't found it. I don't know. And I guess you could look at the aspect of, maybe some people are also, raising families and kids and that, which I totally get. That was me when I was that age. My wife and I, we had children very young, but it really made me think when you brought that point up when we were talking earlier this week.
Yeah. I really admire, guys like Ken Andrews. He and I were on the phone the other day, and I just think the world of him. And he's an admin on my long distance motorcycle fan page. And, Ken Phoenix and John Anderson, there's a whole bunch of really good men out there that I don't know Riot well, but the time I've seen him and hung out with him, I really think a lot about him. He's a good dude. Same thing with Chris Hopper. I've been peripheral friends with a lot of these guys, some of them closer than others. And yeah, the under 50 crowd that's kind of getting to the stage where the kids are growing up. They're getting economically able to go ride and do more stuff. Yeah, I mean, we got to make this sport easier to enter, easier to understand. And I think the desire of young people to get on a bike and ride long distance, I do believe that's still there. I don't think that's going away. Economically, you got some interesting things that are facing this younger generation, and even you and I are both on the younger side of Generation X, and the millennials are following right behind us in age, and in Gen Z. So the younger generations are faced with a lot of higher cost of living, higher housing costs, higher debt levels. A lot of them get into student loan debt and they're drowning in that. They get a mortgage before they even buy a house. So that's going to affect the type of bikes they buy. That's not saying that they won't get into bikes, but some of these manufacturers are starting to wake up to the fact that 20-somethings aren't dumping $35,000 for a new bike. Not very many. Triumph's coming out with cheaper motorcycles. You've got some really good bikes from Honda and Kawasaki that are value motorcycles that are still really good bikes.
Oh, the ones I could throw. I used to ride a Suzuki Boulevard. I had the C50. Great bike, great platform. I mean, yeah, they, I don't want to say they cut costs, but they did some, the fenders were, plastic. They're, heavy duty quality, but the way they built the bike, they made it affordable, and it was a great, comfortable platform. I mean, the Boulevards, I mean, that's, the Intruder, the Volusia, when Suzuki rebranded all their touring style bikes into the Boulevard lineup, dude, they were great bikes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of really good ones out there. My uncle owns Suzuki Kawasaki of Paris, Texas. It's on the loop over there, kind of close to the Paris Harley-Davidson. Brad's owned that dealership for, I want to say, 40 years. So, there's a lot of really good things out there. And I think if we're going to see the long distance community continue to thrive, it's going to take the sages of the world, like Ken and those kind of guys that just take a little time to mentor and a little time to help those of us who are getting into the stage of life where we can actually get out and go. Just help us understand it. I mean, I hang out in the Hoka crowd. In fact, you and I probably passed each other in South Dakota in 2022.
I bet we did.
And I also love the Iron Butt Association and Iron Butt Rally. I was up at the checkpoint at the Iron Butt Rally here in Denver, helping my buddy John change his oil and do some stuff to his bike. But yeah, I got to clean off all the bugs from Ben Ernst's bike. What an honor, you know. I got to clean the bugs. Hey, good
Oh,
guy.
Big
I
Ben.
volunteered. Big Ben. Yeah, these are all fantastic dudes. You know, they're willing to take the time to teach, whether it be base camp software or just help understand the rally scene. John came back from the Heart of Texas uh, rally and showed me his rally book and showed me all the things he was trying to figure out, and you know, his route planning and all that. Man, that got me fired up. And that's the kind of thing we got to figure out how to do more and more of, whether it's through the Harley owners groups or whatever the local motorcycle clubs are. If we can show the thrill of long distance riding to the next generation, they'll be hooked. It's a God given thing that people like to explore and adventure on a motorcycle. Man, we were created that way. So
The rally, right? And I think some people, when they first hear it, I think they get confused because maybe they instantly think of the Sturgis, type bike rally. They don't understand that, the rally stuff, and like what we're talking about now, it's a self-guided scavenger hunt, and there's so many different ones. Yeah. I haven't done one. I really want to. There was one actually in Washington and Oregon, the PNW GTX rally, but it falls the next day after my Monsters Over Mountains ride. It's like, well, I can't do it. But there is Nancy Oz and somebody else have put together what's called the PNW Grand Tour. It's a 6-month self-guided scavenger hunt for Washington, Oregon. Was there eight sites in Washington, 8 in Oregon, 3 in Northern California, 3 in Idaho, and 3 in Western Montana. And you have April 1st to October 31st.
That's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. There's also the Tour of Honor where we're looking for sites all over the country.
Yep.
That are memorial sites. For our veterans, soldiers. And then you've also got the Ride to Eat scavenger hunts for food. I'm all about food.
Solo and Reefs. You know? Oh yeah, me too. I'm all about good food.
So there's a lot of really fun ones. I can't wait to get more involved in that kind of scene. For right now, I have my little long distance motorcycle fan page, and we post all the rides up there. We want people doing whatever they enjoy. We want them to throw their ride adventures and document them up there. Oh,
your Facebook group is great. The Long Distance Motorcycle Fans page on Facebook is a great place for that. And speaking of which, I got to ask now, I know you're talking about our good mutual friend, Mr. Go Home Ken. Have you signed any of his books yet? Any of the black books?
Not yet. Not yet. I've seen him a few times, but he was in ride mode. I hung out with him a little bit before the start of the Hoka Hay, and he was, getting his stuff together and getting ready to roll. And then I saw him again at the checkpoint at the Iron Butt rally in Denver. And again, time crunch to change the oil in the bike and get some rest and shower up. So I do look forward to hanging out with some of these guys around the country. And I mean, shoot, I'm right off of 25 going north in Colorado in Monument. My house is really easy to get to from anyone that's coming into the Front Range to ride the Rocky Mountains. So I'd love to see even being able to host. We got a local brewery right down the street, host a bunch of the guys that are riding through town. Man, that's life-giving to me. I might even buy a bunch of the beers for everybody.
Well, if things work out right, I might be down in that area a couple times a year, not far from you.
Yeah, Frank Orlando just mentioned the America's Ultimate Long Distance Riding. Yeah, that's a good one too. That's super cool. Self-guided again, get points per different activities and such. So, yeah.
Oh, here's a good one, Frank.
Yeah. Hogback Twister Challenge. Never heard of that one. I'll have to look it up.
Because that's right down in your neck of the woods. It's a Colorado run that's put on down in Colorado. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I just joined the Hog chapter here, the 405. They've got some new folks that are managing it that are really into riding. I had looked into it about, 5 or 6 years ago, and they didn't really ride. I'm like, man, what do you guys do? You just kind of hang out? that's fun, but I want to ride when I'm off. And the new group is riding quite a bit. So I'm looking to get more engaged even with the Harley owners groups that do put some miles on the bikes.
Yeah, Frank was saying the Hogback Twister Challenge is based out of Boulder, Colorado. Into
Sweet.
July.
Yeah,
I know he's
I'm
gone down
blanking
there a
on
few
the,
times and ridden it.
I was trying to look up the website that has all the, here we go. It's jasonjonas.com, rides.jasonjonas.com. It's got a list of all of the rally rides on there. You can sign up. He's got direct links. He's done a great job of creating that website. I'll message it to you if you don't have it, so you can
Yeah, do
drop
that.
it in
That'd
the
be
show
great.
notes. But he's really just collected all the available rides around the country and stuck them in one place to find easily. But yeah, that's kind of the next frontier for me, is spending more time doing rallies and things like that. I mean, I got roasted on my own page by the guys because, like, I'll crank out a handful of 1,000-mile days and 1,400 mile days. You know, I can do saddle sores, which are 1,000, or bun burners. You know, you get the gold or the silver depending on the 24 or 36 hours. But I never turn them in. I'm like, you know what? I'm really cheap, and I'm a big iron butt fan. Okay, but I'm cheap, and for me to spend another $40 for someone to send me a piece of paper, I'm like, it depends if it's a special ride. So, but
Understandable.
again, I support. Yeah, I support what they do. I don't mean any. I'm not throwing shade at those guys. I really like them, but uh, I'd love to know how much Ken spends on, go home Ken spends on certificates and getting his documentation, because the dude cranks out tons of them.
Oh, that he does. I mean, he's got the binders he's put together, all his certificates is impressive.
I had two daughters get married over the last couple of years. They were 14 months apart getting married. And I don't know if anyone's paid for a wedding, recently,
Oh,
but
yeah.
gum, they're not cheap.
Yeah, last year.
So
I saw a thing on
got,
it was on the radio. They
sorry, go
said
ahead,
now
bro.
the average cost of a wedding is $30,000.
I believe it. I believe it. I had one married this last July. My middle daughter got married. My oldest got married about 14 months earlier than that. And they had very different styles. One daughter wanted to rival the Queen's wedding. The other one wanted a very simple wedding. Someone asked me what the bikes are in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Stars and Stripes bike is a 72 CB 500. It's my father-in-law's bike. He's had it since he was like 20 years old or so, and he's in his 60s now. So when he gets back to town, one of the projects we're going to do is we're going to rebuild that motor so he can ride with me more. It's got some it's burning some oil because it's leaking down the valve seals, but it's a really cool custom bike. And the other bike, this is my daily driver. That's a 2016 Ultra Limited Harley. It's the last year of the twin cam, but great bike. I really wrestled with whether to buy the M8 or the twin cam, and I actually went with this one, which it's just a stage one, but it runs really strong. And I like the feel. It's hard to describe, but I like the feel of the twin cam more than I like the feel of the M8. They really smoothed out the M8. Again, great motor. They get some crazy power out of those things, but I just like the twin cam a little bit more. So
I'm with you there. I totally agree.
plus, anybody who knows Harley, you don't buy a first year Harley anything.
No.
I looked at buying the Pan America. We're all the test dummies for the engineering group there. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what happens with these new 121 variable valve motors and stuff, but I wouldn't want to own the first couple of years of them. I'm a little leery of
No.
that.
I think I'd wait, 3 to 5 and then say, okay, got some bugs worked out.
This 2016 I bought about 20 months ago, I guess, and it had about 15,000 miles on it. It's got 56,000 on it now. And it's the last year that they made that twin cam. And so I figure if any of the bikes are going to have the bugs worked out, it's going to be that year model. And I really like it. It's been a great bike.
Oh, I love mine. I mean, I got, the same thing. I run a twin cam. I mean, I have the older one, the 88, but I love it.
A buddy of mine just gave me a Vance and Hines exhaust. So I had a Chromeworks exhaust on it, and I kept having issues with that Chromeworks exhaust. Whether it be the slip-ons slipping off, I had to keep replacing and I kept buying the brand new clamps for the slip-ons, and they'd shake themselves off after a few thousand miles still. So I did put that new Vance and Hines on there and a new tuner that runs really strong. But probably my favorite upgrade to that bike, I got two favorites. Well, maybe three. My first favorite upgrade was going to a Legend suspension. That totally transformed the ride of that bike. And I didn't do the front end. I just did the back. I'm saving up someday to be able to do the front end. But, man, the Legend suspension on the back just totally transformed it. My wife will ride with me probably 80% of the time. I'm two up most of the time. And then my second favorite upgrade was my wild ass seat that, he's a friend of the show, Craig and the guys there. But man, that wild ass seat made me stop searching for the ultimate seat. I just threw the wild ass on the stock seat and figured out how to air it up right. And I've had no seat problems at all. And then the last upgrade, there's a local shop here called Freedom Shields. They do windscreens. And,
I've heard of Freedom Shields.
They're real thick. They're real good quality windscreens. They're made right here in Colorado, and that's a Freedom recurved Freedom Shield. It's got the curve on it, but also it's a little wider, so my passenger doesn't have a lot of air on her either. So those are really my three favorite upgrades at the moment.
I had the long ride shield, and then I was fortunate enough when I had Brian Clock on, we got to talking after the show, and he made some comments. He says, you need this. And, I'm fortunate to do this. It's amazing the people I've got to meet. And I sometimes scroll through my phone. It's amazing some of the phone numbers that I have. He's like, you got my phone number. He goes, text me address. I'm going to fix your problems. Like, what problems? He was like, I'm going to fix it. Don't you worry. And, he's fortunate. I got, awesome. The Clockworks windshield. And no, I do like it. It took a little bit of getting used to as opposed to, the long ride I had, but no, I really like it. It does really help push the air over because I got the touring one. I think it's a 17-inch, which he recommended. I'm like, that's going to be way too tall. There's no way. And oh no, he was 100% correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I've looked at the Chromeworks or the Clockworks, and they put out some really fine products. But I've actually got, I don't know how many screens I've got up on my wall over here. I probably have 5 different ones I've tried, from the cheap Amazon ones to higher class. And I ride so much, I keep tearing them up, and they get all scratched up, and you don't look very good at night. You kind of distort a little bit. I prefer to have nice, clean, fresh shield every riding season.
So much riding you've done, have you upgraded any of your lighting? Running no auxiliary lights or anything?
I haven't. I'm running, well, I take that back. When I bought this bike, it had the Daymaker lights on it, and they work pretty good at night. I haven't run any auxiliary lighting. I'd love to, just haven't been able to save up enough to get them yet. John Anderson let me borrow his brand new Gullwing at the time, and he had some what were those? They were, I'm blanking on the name, but man, they were amazing lights. And as soon as I hit the lights, I started laughing, man. It freaking melted all the deer in my neighborhood. I couldn't believe how bright they were.
Denali's?
Yeah. Who's the parent company on the Denali light? Clearwater.
Not sure.
I think the Clearwater lights is what he had. Maybe they're two separate companies. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
Clearwaters were what he had, and they're amazing. What are you running any auxiliary lights on yours?
I got a set for Christmas. My son bought me a set of co-LED LEDs. They're supposed to be all the reviews where I'd read. They're supposed to be great, and I'm going to get those mounted on. I mean, I got the Custom Dynamics Pro Beam headlight, and then I also have their Pro Beam fog lights, and I have the caliper brake mount. So the fog lights are actually mounted to my brake calipers, so they will follow the wheel, cool. Which I really love those, especially slow speed maneuvering at night, like coming home, turn on my road or whatnot. And they are freaking amazing. Those caliper mounts when you turn and whatnot, because they're going to follow your lights where, with the road glide, you have the fixed fairing. So yeah, it is really nice having those. I really like those, the caliper mounts.
That's cool. I live in an area that's really dark. We're at 7,400 feet. Don't have a lot of street lights. We don't have any street lights. And man, when it's dark here, it's really dark. And so I need all the lighting that I can get. But it's funny, I can see a whole lot better than I could on my 78 CB750. So maybe I've when I ride at night, I just crank the radio up super loud and turn my lights on. I run the high beam. I've got that little modification where the high beam works with the running lights. And that makes it a little bit better too. But now someday I'll get me some really cool auxiliary lights. I even thought about going down to like Harbor Freight and buying some of those running lights.
A lot of people do. I mean, you live within your means, I guess is a great way to put it, with stuff.
Yeah, spot on.
But yeah, the co-LEDs, I'm really looking forward to trying those out. I was like, when I got hooked up with Custom Dynamics and then, the new headlight, which I thought, man, this thing it was night and day difference from the stock. I mean, absolutely amazing. And the fog lights, hey, this is great. And last year when we were doing the Monsters Over Mountains, Shell Federson came to ride. She's out of somewhere back east. And she had the Denali's and she came up next to me. We were up around Flathead Lake and it was 11 to midnight. And, we basically, the old saying, run suicide down the highway. And she clicked on her Denali's. I'm like, I might as well not even have lights because this just made it look like I don't have nothing. I'm like, holy crap, this is freaking amazing. Yeah. And it's like, okay, more lights are needed, especially at night. I mean, I don't think you can have enough lights.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And I've even played with the FLIR system on my friend David's bike. David,
yeah, I looked at his.
For me and Parker. Yeah, he had a cool setup. Of course, he had a pretty bad mishap during Hoka 22, and my construction company did some renovation at his house. He's, for y'all that don't know, he's a quadriplegic now. He's in a motorized chair because of a wreck, pretty bad wreck, but good dude. Still very happy. I was actually texting with him today.
Because I think it was him and I want to say Lionel that both were running the FLIR systems on their bike. And I remember looking at that when we were at Black Hills Harley the day before everybody left. It's like, holy cow, it was neat to go around all these guys that are really into it and seeing the different setups of how everybody does stuff. It was like being in a candy store, looking at everybody's bikes, like, oh, this is great. This is cool. And you can get a lot of tips, a lot of advice and ideas. And, everybody within that, that community is so great to talk to, and we'll explain stuff and so much information. It was almost information overload, but it was so cool getting to see everything and just getting ideas and education.
Yeah, the Hoka is super unique because they're carrying so much gear for camping the whole time. And then they've also got to run those crazy clipboards and see where they're going. If you don't know, audience wise, these guys can't use GPS at all in the Hoka Haze. They've got turn-by-turn instructions. It's like 50 miles turn right at this road, another 45 miles turn left at this road. It's all back road. There's no interstate. And, they've got to run some lighting systems so they can see their clipboard for what they're looking at. But I asked, I always ask before I take pictures of other people's bikes, and everybody was really cool. I've got pictures of a ton of bikes at the Hoka. I don't think they can run auxiliary fuel tanks either in the Hoka.
No, they can't. They got to run stock. You can run 6 gallon because that's, I think, Indian and both Harley. Plus, with the Hoka, you can only run American-made bikes.
Yeah. when I was at the checkpoint for the Iron Butt Rally this last summer, man, I took a lot of pictures of all kinds of awesome bikes with cool things. And that one of the things I've been looking to do to mine is to put a tail dragger auxiliary tank on the back end of it. I've seen some on my Facebook page that look really cool. I want a black one so it doesn't really stand out. And I would love to have another. I think they can run like 11 gallons or so. So
I think so.
my bike holds 6, and so to run another 5 gallons would be awesome. I think I'd have to pee off the side of the bike going on the highway though. But outside of that, I probably could manage it. That could be a whole new game.
Oh yeah, it takes your range.
I couldn't do a catheter or nothing like that.
No,
some of these people are crazy.
No, some are absolute diehards. That's no joke.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather just figure out how to pee off the bike. That sounds more entertaining.
I'll just stop for a minute and pee on the side of the bushes.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't take that long.
No.
So anyways. Yeah, so how long were you up at the Hoka launch?
Let's see. We got there Friday night. Went up there Saturday to see everybody. And of course, that's when my bike broke down. So I was at Black Hills all day long because my brand new charging system that I put in that had maybe 3,000 miles on it failed. And so my bike they ended up being able to get it in that day, but they had it all day long replacing it. And which sucked because, like you, I mean, I'm fortunate, being mechanically inclined, I can work on my own bike. And that was the first and only time I've ever had my motorcycle in the shop. But they were great about it. There's a few little mishaps they had, but they compensated me very well for it. And, they were great, a great dealership to deal with.
I think I rode up on Friday from Colorado. Colorado to South Dakota is not a bad ride. It's a real pretty ride. And the freeways are high speed, so it doesn't take long. I think it might only be like 600 miles from my house up there. I camped at a campsite right behind the dealership. And so I got to see everybody and hang out, and I hit all the tourist spots. You got to go down, Spearfish Canyon and Blackwood, and I can't remember all the places I went. I went obviously Needles Highway, and
yeah, we did Needles on Sunday, Spearfish Canyon. But when we were over there in Sturgis last year, in 23, fortunate enough, my wife and I went over there and we worked for Wild Ass for a week. And Craig, one of the days, because we stayed in just outside, we were only a couple miles from Black Hills Harley, so we're in Rapid City. And Craig introduced me to Nemo Canyon, which was a back way to go to Sturgis. It's about a 40-minute ride, 45 minutes, but it is absolutely a gorgeous ride. It's like, this is amazing. It was so beautiful to run through Nemo Canyon because then it dumps you down on the far west into Sturgis. That's if you've never done Nemo Canyon, you ever get up that way, you got to check out Nemo. It's a gorgeous ride.
Yeah, it's not that bad of a ride from here. So my wife and I have been up there a few times to look around, like away from the Sturgis Bike Week. I've actually never been on the actual Sturgis week. I've always gone either after or before. I was planning to go in 23. A buddy of mine we had a group of us going, and his mom ended up going into hospice. And I had some challenges with my business that same time that I needed to take care of. And so it kind of blew up my Sturgis 23. But this year, I'll definitely trying to be there this year. I don't have any other distractions. So,
well, even if you ever get up there, this year we were fortunate. We stayed with the Wild Ass crew with Craig and his wife Renee. They had rented a big house, so we all stayed there, which was awesome. But the year before, when we went for the Hoka send-off, we camped at the No Name Campground and RV Park. It's right by the National Cemetery before you're coming into Sturgis. And that is an absolute great place to stay. I mean, you can tent camp. They have cabins you can rent. They have, big camping trailers parked there. But they have a restaurant, lounge, and bar in the campground, swimming pool, laundry facility, showers. I mean, they have everything. And Sherry and her husband are great. I mean, they're both motorcycle riders, and that was an absolute cool place to stay. We'd rent a little cabin there, so we stayed there for a weekend. I'll send you a link to their page. But yeah, that's
cool. Thank you.
It is a great place to stay because I mean, you got basically all the amenities kind of you really need, unless you want to go get some extra stuff. But having the restaurant and everything right in the campground, so you can have breakfast. I mean, it's not a basic menu. I mean, there's some good stuff in there, but they had good food, and it's just a cool, fun environment to hang out in.
Breakfast is my favorite 3 meals of the day, so can't mess up breakfast in my world. I mean, I guess you can burn my pancakes, I'm hacked off, but good bacon and eggs, I'm pretty happy camper. That sounds awesome. I'm gonna definitely look that up.
Yeah, they're great people. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, I really do enjoy camping off my motorcycle. I saw some of the Hoka Hey guys doing it, and I was like, oh, that's my people group. Because for the longest time, I would bring like a fold-out chair, and I like a cot. I don't like to sleep on the ground. And then I throw my sleeping bag on my cot, and unless it's raining, I don't set up my tent. My wife one time, she's like, aren't you scared of someone like messing with you? I'm like, why in the world would they mess with a Harley rider on the side of, camping somewhere? I don't like, we're the ones they're scared of. That's not going to happen. I've never been messed with, by the way. But I stay at churches. I'll stay rest stops. I like truck stops too. And I usually go knock on the truck driver's door and just ask, hey, you got any shower tickets? I think I've never not gotten a shower ticket from somebody. But yeah, it's cheaper. I like that. But it's funny, the ministry I work for, not real crazy about me just tent camping along the way. They'll pay for a hotel and stuff. They're really sweet to me about that. But the other thing I like to do, I like to stay at people's houses. I like people to come by and stay at my house, and I like to stay at other people's houses. I've never used the Bunka-Biker thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard could be pretty cool, but I have, all my ministry connections and all the years I've spoken in different churches around the country. Man, I just look for friends in the region and hit them up, tell them when I'm coming through. Like I'm staying at friends' houses. I'm staying with Steve and Petrodine, some of my friends in South Lake, Texas. It's this next trip, and that's the way I like to go because it's not that I'm cheap. I mean, I have the money to pay for hotels and whatever, but it's the adventure of it. If I stayed in people's houses, I love the dinner conversation, the after dinner cigar and glass of wine or whatever, and I love that. But if it's camping, man, I get a kick out of getting up and smelling the fresh air, being right next to my bike, and going to find the nearest McDonald's to grab some coffee and take off. It just feels really self-sufficient that way. So,
well, and that's what Amy and I do. Like, we've done, 2 years now, the Monsters Over Mountains. And so we have everybody comes and camps here, now, we have the extra room at the house. Plus, now we have our, the camp trailer, and we'll do a big dinner, that Friday night before we all take off. And what some people consider the middle of the night, Saturday morning. But no, it is fun. You get good dinner, and, depending on, of course, how dry it's been, sometimes you have a campfire, we all sit around the campfire, have a few wobbly pops, like I said, have a cigar and just the conversation, the camaraderie of everybody, and, then get some sleep, and we all hit the road for a fun 1,500 plus 36-hour run around the Pacific Northwest. And it is fun housing people. It's, it's like we've, a lot of people, you get to know everybody through the, doing this and through the Mile Monsters. We told, so many people, it's like, hey, if you're up in the area, hey, give us a call. We have an extra room, it's, we got the garage, and put your bike in the garage, and, we enjoy entertaining people and, just extending that hospitality and that friendship of everybody. It's like, it sounds like a broken record, but the most awesome part of doing the V-Twin life is the friendships I've made with every guest I've had. It is so cool to build that friendship, and even more. And then, you get in an episode, but it doesn't mean that friend's over. So many people, text messages, phone calls, a couple times a month or whatnot. And you build that lifelong friendship. And, I can look at it as how many times you've been to the gas station, you're getting fuel in your bike, and somebody pulls over, they see something, or you're on a bike and that fuel stop is 10 minutes long, but you just made a new friend. And it's a lot like this
Yeah.
is, and it's the biggest reward and what's so fun of doing it.
Yeah, and I'm totally wired the same way as you in this, but one of the reasons I started the long distance motorcycle fan page was um, I wanted a place where people could hang out and be known and share all their stories and not have to worry about heavy moderation and having stories removed and that kind of thing. And like we have a lot of women writers on our page, and we don't allow them to be harassed or anything. It's a safe place for them. It's a safe place for new writers to come and ask dumb questions. I mean, I throw out stupid things all the time that people, give me a hard time about. But, I wanted to create that kind of environment where you could have that openness to build friendships and have a connecting hub. But I think your podcast has definitely done that too. I've listened to maybe 30 or 40 of your podcasts. So
Well, thank you.
I was kind of half joking when I tagged you and said, "Hey, when do I get to go on the podcast?" But I was actually, you know, there was a few guys that I used to listen to. One of them did the Long Rider radio podcast.
Yeah.
That guy did
And
a
what's
great
funny,
job.
he's over North Seattle area, and I would love to try to get in contact with him, but his page is down and everything. And, I'm running out
Yeah,
of
I think
ways to
life
try to
got
get a hold
busy.
of him, but mhm.
But thank you to you for sacrificing the time and the effort it takes to put these together. This is not a small task, and you've done a good job with it. So I appreciate you having the yeah. Amy's a gracious host. Is Amy your wife?
Yeah, Amy's my wife, and it's
Okay.
like we're on one trip. We're over there. He's like, hey, we can, stop by here. We're on a run. It was late at night. He's like, I can call my wife. He's like, we can do pizza. He's like, she don't cook like your wife. I just laugh because my wife is a phenomenal cook, and she is a huge supporter and a big part of this and a big part of all the stuff we do for Mile Monsters. I mean, if it wasn't for all her support and her help and whatnot, there's no way all this could happen. And she's a huge
That's
part of it, and we enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun. We've both of us have made so much friendships for, like we said. And you can go back to how you're talking about your Facebook group, where don't be afraid to ask stupid questions, because we're all new at some aspect of doing something in life. And there are some of those groups, I've seen it myself, where somebody might ask a question and people ridicule them. It's like, what, we all come into this stage, motorcycles at different stages of life. We're all learning. It's there's never a dumb question in my opinion, but some people look at it the other way, and it's,
Yeah.
in a way, it's sad.
Yeah, and I wanted a place where that's not the case. I had gotten booted from one of the popular pages for asking questions. I wasn't doing anything but trying to learn, and the admin pulled me off the page. I was like, man, I'm a pretty easy to get along with guy. I'm pretty low maintenance and a friendly person. Like, wow, if I can get booted, that probably means a lot of people are. So I'm like, heck with it. I'll
Yeah.
just start my own page. I mean,
It-
Ken, our mutual friend Ken, he works really hard to write these ride reports, and then to
oh,
have
for
them pulled
sure.
down by somebody. Oh man, he's a great writer, and I've actually told him he needs to write some books, just put some stuff out there. In fact, speaking of books, let's see. This is one I've been reading. It's about the hopeless class. Guy rode his 76 BMW, and it had like 500,000 miles on it when he wrote it. It's a great read. This is a fun one. You can get that on Amazon too. But it's getting to be the time of year where people come out to Colorado for vacation. Check this book out. It's got all the cool motorcycle roads, and it divides it by region and has great explanation of how to get around them. So you can plan your rides really well with that.
It's funny
Another
you're talking
book
about
that
riding to Colorado. My wife said we could ride to Colorado if we could go stay at the oh god, the Stanley Hotel.
Broadmoor. Oh,
No,
the
Stanley
Stanley,
Hotel in
Vanessa's Park.
Estes. Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I've never
She's a big
stayed there,
Stephen
but
King
we've
fan.
eaten. They've got a museum in the downstairs to all the movies that have been filmed there. The Shining is obviously the popular one that was filmed
Oh
there
yeah.
at the Stanley. But also there's a whole bunch of other movies that have been filmed there. And they've got some cool pictures downstairs of some ghost encounters. Um, it's really crazy. Hey, one more book people would like if they come into Colorado. This one's All the Mountain Passes. You can find this one on Amazon as well.
Oh, I need that.
53 mountain passes, and I think I've hit almost every one of them at this point. But it's fun some of them are dirt. I've got a KLR 650 dirt bike, and that's the one I take on the mountain passes. But actually, my ultra limited is pretty decent in the dirt too. I've been surprised at how much dirt riding I can actually do on that crazy bike. Get a lot of weird looks, but hey, it's a motorcycle. It's supposed to go there. I mean, look at the old World War II photos. Those dudes rode things everywhere.
Well, it's crazy the luck you've had with your KLR, because they seem so, a tried and true bike that will just go forever. And you've been through, I think we were talking 3 engines.
Yeah, I'm on my 3rd engine rebuild. I think I may have 70,000 plus on it, but I seized it up in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico where Billy the Kid was shot down. I was on a trip from Texas. My dad had just rebuilt the motor, and I checked the oil on it, and I was only running 70, 75, so 5,000 RPMs. It redlines at like 9,000 or so it wasn't taxed. I mean, it's not cruising down like our Harleys cruise at a low RPM, but it seized up, and I had to get trailered in. Actually, a dude on a Triumph stopped, and he said, "Hey, I got a tow rope. Can you hang on to this and ride?" And I said, "Yeah." So he pulled me like 20 miles into town. I was holding onto a tow rope off the front of the bike. My shoulder was killing me, but I got in. But yeah, I beat the crap out of my KLR. It's got the big IBS gas tank on it. I'll have to put some pictures up on our long distance fan page. I mean, I've ridden it on a motocross track. It's got a special tuned suspension. I mean, I have not been nice to that bike, so the fact that it's gone through a few motors, that's probably more owner operator than anything. But I do like to point out my Harley behind us. I've never had any issues with that thing. I ride the heck out of it, and it's never given me a problem.
So you made one point of the things that you love the best, your 3 things. What's one thing that you don't like about it?
Gosh. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's heavy, but that kind of goes with the territory. I was enjoying the heavy bike today when the wind was 50 plus miles an hour. I mean, it's stable, but I've never dumped it in the dirt, which I run through mountain passes from time to time on it. That would suck. I don't know that I have anything I really don't like about it. I'd love to have a whole lot more horsepower, but you can never have too much horsepower. But I wouldn't want to give up the gas mileage. One of my buddies put a 110 kit with a cam on his, and he's getting like low 30s miles per gallon. I get pretty consistently 43 to 48. I'll do like that, but yeah, man,
Yeah,
I get to complain about it. I like it.
I get 40 to 44 with mine. I mean, mine, I got the gear drive cams. It's been tuned, and some other goodies have been done to the engine, but it was all done before I got it. My dad did it. And so it wasn't so much for, I mean, of course, I guess you can say it is for performance, but it's just a little bit more for touring, a little bit more low in torque, and just enough to bring the 88 up a little bit of life with basically the 95 inch that's in it with the cams and a couple goodies. But economy wise, it still does great. Even
That's
pull,
awesome.
I mean, when with the wife and I and the trailer, it goes down to 35 to 38 miles a gallon pulling the trailer.
That's not bad.
No,
that's not bad at all. I want to hear more about your trailer. What kind of, what's your trailer setup?
It's a good one. I've actually, Springer Mike could ask more about it because it was actually a gift from him. It's got the cooler in the front. I'll send you some pictures. It's
awesome.
Pretty lightweight. You got I don't know, the little box on it is 2.5 by maybe 3.5, 4 feet long. And it's got a cooler on the front, the swivel neck hitch on it, but it is great. You don't notice it so much behind you once you're going because it's just rolling behind you. But what I like is if you're, like when Amy and I went, we picked it up on the way. So when we did Sturgis, it was 13 days and you can pack more. Now I wouldn't say pack more, but you can, all the stuff you're taking when you're going longer, you can keep your center of gravity lower because it's in the trailer and you're not stacking it higher on the bike, which I really enjoyed.
Cool. That's a great idea. That's on my list to get someday as a trailer. My wife, roughing it for my wife is 4-star hotels. So she's got to bring her extra shoes and she's a beautiful woman, so I don't complain. But man, she likes to pack a little heavier than I do. I'm like, you got a pair of underwear. You can wear that 4 times, inside out and backwards and forwards. That's 4 days right there.
Well, it's like when we went to Sturgis, that was Amy's longest ride ever on the bike. And you got to give, no joke. You hear a lot of, pushes or whatnot, but thanks to Wild Ass, she was able to ride the distance she did. We had a few days where we pushed 600 miles, which is amazing for her with, she came off a horse years ago and really screwed up her lower back and her tailbone, and putting my floorboards in the rear as far down as they could go. And the Wild Ass made an astronomical difference for her. And so going that far was great for her. But like you're saying, traveling with your wife, Amy's like, where are we going to stay? I'm like, well, we'll just go till we're tired. And when we're ready to stop, let's stop. I can't do that. Like, what do you mean? Sure we can. She's like, no, let's just, let's plot a destination. Let's just get a room. And, okay. No problem. We can do that. But, kind of, that's her comfort zone. Let's get a place so we know it's there. I'm like, hey, whatever, that's fine with me. She was coming along for the ride and it was a long ride. So, make comforts. Hey, we can do it your way. I had no problem whatsoever.
That's awesome.
It was.
That's awesome, man.
So what's some of your, your favorite adventures, that you've done? Do you really stick out?
Yeah. Man, I rode the North by Northwest in 2022 and it was awesome. But we took off out of Colorado Springs and I went to the Bonneville Salt Flats and Shiprock. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Highway 145 going through the west side of Colorado. No. Kind of on the other side of Durango. Man, I went through that in the rain and in the middle of the night. But the one that tops it all is about a little after midnight. I was in Utah and I'm rolling up into a canyon. It was called the Mercer Cemetery and Graveyard. So I went up there and I'm riding up these dirt roads for a long ways. And it's just pitch black. There is nobody out there. And the story on this town was it used to be a real populated mining town, but it caught fire and a bunch of people died up there, like thousands of people, folklore says. And so they buried all these people up there on top of this. It's at the top of it's on top of the mountain ridge. You go up this dark valley up there. Then you got to walk like 150 yards to the cemetery, and it's in the middle of the night. And I've got I've got my helmet on, modular helmet. I'm wearing all my black leathers and whatever. I've got a long tube flashlight that it works really well to whack things as well. But I'm also, yeah. I also carry. I'm born and raised in Texas, so we were born with guns. So I've got a handgun on too. But I get up to that. I'm talking to my wife on the phone, and I'm like, man, this is kind of a creepy area. Well, then I see a couple of cars in the parking lot, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. I'm gonna go kind of check this out. I'm already up here. And I find this one kid down there, and I'm like, hey man, what are you doing out here? And he's like, we're playing airsoft up on top of the hill. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So those other kids up here, that's interesting. Middle of the night, absolute middle of nowhere. So I walk up to this 150 yards up this hill to the graveyard. And picture this. The graves are all marked with these little half white picket fences, and they're just squared off. And I'm looking for one of a little girl who died in that fire, and there's stuffed animals and stuff around her grave. So I've got to use my flashlight and find her grave. And while I'm doing that, all these kids are starting to come around because here's this dude in black leather with a flip up helmet and looks kind of creepy. They're like, "Hey, mister, what are you doing?" I'm like, I thought something came up just off the top of my head. It said, "Hey guys, I'm from the Utah Bureau of Paranormal, and we're here investigating some activities that we've heard about." I said, "I don't want to freak you guys out," but I kept it very straight faced. I said, "But we've had some grave disturbances, and from what we can tell, it's come from the inside of the grave out by the way the dirt's been moved. And we're just here every couple of nights doing a little check-in on the graves." And I had a clipboard which had all my locations to find. And I said, "If y'all hear of anything, you see anything, you just let us know, okay? But y'all go on and have fun, do what you're doing." I walk away. Those kids were freaking out. They were terrified. I never told them I was kidding. I just walked off and took my pictures.
That is awesome. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I got back. I told that story at the North by Northwest to a bunch of the guys. That was we got a kick out of that. But I did get called. I posted a written version of that on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I got a call from a lady out of New Mexico, and she runs a paranormal podcast. She's like, "Hey, would you go on the paranormal podcast? We heard about your Merker cemetery time." And that's like, "How the heck did y'all hear about that?" And she said, "Well, you may not realize this, but that's one of the highest paranormal activity cemeteries. They got like video, they got pictures, they got all kinds of documentation out there of a little girl walking through that cemetery and interacting with people." I'm like, wow.
Holy cow.
I got weaponry for people on this side of eternity, and I'm a pastor, so I know how to handle demonic activity. Like, I figured, what do I have to lose, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite an adventure. That was a fun night.
You ever ran out of gas on any of your adventures?
I've never run out of gas, but I have had flat tires.
Oh, you never ran out of gas? Show's over. Gotta go. Not kidding.
Yeah, no, I've never run out of gas. Well, I take that back. I did run out one time in the parking lot of the QT gas station. I coasted in. That doesn't count.
See, I did that too, and everybody makes fun of me for that.
Well, I think that's good planning right there.
When Amy and I left Rapid City, heading back from Sturgis last year, we went from there to Great Falls, Montana. We're, enjoying the best way to travel motorcycles. You take the back highways, best way. Yep. And we come up to some little T, these back highways, and there's a gas station. I look over there, but all they have is just regular. I didn't have any octane boost with me, and with the cams that are in my bike, old Black Betty does not like regular. And so I looked at the fuel, the sign down to, I think it was Hawthorne, Montana, or something like that. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be cutting it close. But I wasn't worried because I carry 2 1-liter fuel reserve bottles. They were in the trail. I'm like, well, worst case worst, I'll use the fuel bottles. I said, with that and what's in the tank, I know we can get close. And we're going there, and I see the sign. I think it said like 1 mile or 2 miles. And about that time, I'll just, engine shuts off. I'm like, oh, crap. There's a car behind me, so I get into the center lane of the highway. Car goes by, and Amy's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "We're out of gas." She's like, "Well, was the gas light on?" "Oh, that's been on for a while, honey." So, we coast, and I can literally see the gas station. Hang a left, you go downhill into the parking lot, you make this sharp turn, a little uphill, and then to the gas pumps. And we coast to like 20 yards of the fuel pump. And I'm just laughing. She's laughing. She goes, "You want to just, dump in the fuel reserve bottles and go over there?" Like, nah, just push it. And it's just one of those funny moments. And I knew it was going to be close. I wasn't worried because I had the fuel bottles, but it's just one of those things. And then last year, I did it going to California too. It was just me when we went down for a Mile Monster event for one of the boys for Turbo's birthday. Was meeting Frank Orlando in think it was Weed, California. And with just some of those little mountain passes, I knew it was going to be close. And climbing the last hill, I could see the exit that I needed. It was like 100 yards to the exit, and Frank was like 200 yards down the street once I got off the exit and ran out of gas. I'm like, oh well, time to use the fuel reserve bottle, and made it to the gas station. But it's like, man, twice in 1 year. But I don't know. I guess it's cheap insurance. I carry the fuel bottles, and that's kind of what they're for. But sometimes I push it a little too far. On that same trip, I mean, I have a 5-gallon tank, and me and Michael Nielsen, when we're going down there, we stayed the first night in Sutherland, Oregon. And basically another lady that's part of Mile Monsters, Andrea Tooley, she had a good friend in Sutherland. She said, hey, we can stay at my friend's house. She'll put us up for the night. I'm like, hey, perfect. And I stopped at the Chevron, which according to GPS, I was like a half mile from her house. And I took 4.975 gallons in a 5-gallon tank.
Ooh. Oh man, you were out.
Yeah. Fumes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the places I ride here in Colorado, since I'm right here in the Rocky Mountains, if I run out of gas, I may not survive. So I actually do carry, I carry this aluminum bag-looking sleeping bag that I can bundle up, and it holds body heat. And I try to carry what I need to not get stuck, mostly on my dirt bike, because there are times where I get into some sketchy things there. But I try to make sure that I can survive whatever I run across if I'm out there. That's one of the reasons I always have a firearm on me when I'm on a long ride.
Hey, Smith & Wesson is one of my favorite insurance policies.
Yeah, I have a 1911 45. It's a Gold Cup edition, and that's it's a bright colored one. I open carry that one, and I'm right and left-handed, so I can shoot left-handed just as good as I can shoot right. So that comes in handy. I never had to use a firearm in any weird situations, but I think it's prevented a few things from happening from time to time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have my Smith & Wesson 40 that it goes everywhere with me. Just because, same thing. I mean, I've never had to pull on anybody, but it's just something you get accustomed to. Same way, I grew up with firearms. Almost all through my 20s, I worked for Department of Corrections, worked in a maximum security prison where, firearms and weapons qualifications and carrying weapons. Well, outside, you don't get them inside, but that was part of the job.
Yeah. That's
awesome. I mean, I grew up with them. Yeah. I love, even my boys, we all hunt, we fish. And, when you grow up with something, you learn to carry it, you learn the respect of the weapon, and you know how to use it.
Yeah, no, that's good. But my wife is a big firearms girl. She loves her assault rifles, and she carries a Glock, and she's the gun fanatic in the family, which is really funny. I mean, I don't take her to the gun show because it costs me too much money. She was just asking me today we went for a couple 100 miles on the bike today. She was asking if we could stock up on AR-15 rounds. Yeah, of course. Anytime my wife asks about firearm stuff,
yeah,
I'm happy to help.
So when you're traveling some of your long distance riding, what do you do for cooking or for food? Do you stop somewhere times, or you take you like one of those guys that packs a jet boil with stuff, or kind of what's your setup for eating?
Yeah, great question. I don't really like to cook on the bike. I don't like to carry food or anything. I'll carry a lot of times I'll pick up a Subway sandwich and order a foot long and eat half of it for lunch, half of it for dinner. I don't usually cook on my motorcycle when I'm camping. Outside of I carry Cliff Bars and some snack items. But yeah, when I get up, I just take off for the nearest McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. At night, I enjoy a good meal when I'm on the road, so I'll stop off and eat somewhere, get off the bike, stretch, eat something good, and then go set up to camp. And again, my camp setup is super simple, so it's not like I need daylight to set myself up.
Yeah, Best Western is pretty simple to set up. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, my fold-up cot is only about this big by maybe that it's not very big, so I can pop that thing together real fast in the dark. And then my sleeping bag, that's pretty simple. But
Oh, I admit,
yeah,
even
I'm
my wife, yeah, my wife got me turned on. I roll up a tiny little twin size air mattress. I have a little pump that plugs in my cigarette lighter, and I'll admit, I'll sleep in comfort on an air mattress.
yeah, I'm looking up. I've got a shelf right here. I'm looking. I do have an air mattress, but I've kind of gotten to where I like my cot better because I don't have to worry about it deflating overnight. Um, I'm 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", and so I had to
No,
find a longer cot. And then my stupid cot doesn't fit inside my sleeping bag very well. So I actually have to leave the last part off so my feet hang down. And because excuse me, not my sleeping bag, my tent's not big enough for me to put that cot inside. So I have to build the cot inside the tent if it's raining. But yeah, that's my preferred sleeping setup and arrangement. And then meal wise, man, uh, some people call it intermittent fasting. That's the new thing. I just call it waiting a little bit to go find some food. Hit the gas station, restroom, and grab something to eat at McDonald's, and off I go. It's pretty
So,
simple.
are you a tank bag guy that runs a tank bag, kind of like little snacks, so you can munch when you're going?
Yeah, I have the three windshield bags on the Ultra Limited, and I put
Okay.
snacks in my middle bag. And on my left side, I put a, a wipe to wipe off my visor, and on the right side, I put spray so I can spray off my visor. I'm kind of keeping my glasses, my visor clean. I'm a little bit OCD on that stuff, but I do have a tank. I have a couple different tank bags, and I'll carry food inside my tank bags. I've got one that's expandable, pretty big. I can shove all kinds of stuff. Like yesterday, I rode about a little over 350 miles. I had a bag of beef jerky in my tank bag. Plus, I carry these kind of cups, these Stanley cups in my cup holder. And I usually have two of these if I'm on a longer ride. I might throw a gallon of water in my saddlebag. I haven't done like the auxiliary water system. I don't drink that much water when I'm riding. I mean, I don't have an auxiliary tank either, so I can kind of
Yeah.
time out. If I hit about half a tank, I can start slamming water because I know I'll be off the bike to get gas in just a minute. But
So, how long you been running the Stanley Cup, since the whole trend came out, or I'm just curious.
well, I got this one for Christmas, but I've
Okay.
had a bunch
All right.
of different ones that maybe weren't Stanley cups. They were other versions. But in
Yeah.
the morning when I'm riding to work, I'll put my coffee cup in the cup holder, and I drink coffee on the way to work with my modular helmet.
It's crazy
I've got
how the trend of those Stanley Cups has just exploded with people.
it's ridiculous, isn't it? Good for Stanley. But I run a Schuberth C5 modular helmet these days. I just got this one in September. Once I went to a modular, that's my favorite type of helmet. I've had 3 or 4. That's a Neotech above that Shoei that's by my shoulder. That was my helmet for 5 years. And I just like
Modulars
to
are,
open.
yeah,
That's a
they're
game
game
changer.
changers. Exactly.
Yeah, and I run. I do like to have my Cardo headsets in there with noise canceling. That way I can
Mhm.
take calls on the bike. And I use what's my phone mount? Quad lock. And I use a vibration dampener for the quad lock. And
Yeah.
I do Zoom calls all the time for work. And if I'm on the bike, if I have enough cell signal, I turn on my camera and there I am with my helmet on. Freaks people out sometimes. Like, can you ride your motorcycle and talk in a meeting? I'm like, yeah. I mean, you have conversations while you're driving? Of course you do.
Yeah.
It's no
So
big
actually,
deal.
Clutch had a question. What brand of cod are you using? Do you know? Do you remember what it is?
Let's see. I'll tell you. It is. Hang on just a second. I'm almost to it.
No problem. Inquiring minds want to know.
Okay. Well, I'm digging around up here. I'll have to climb up there and look. I don't know exactly, but maybe I'll put it in show notes. I use this pillow. It's a Trekology pillow. I like that one.
I think I had that same pillow. My daughter got it for me for Christmas.
If I go air mattress, I have this little Climate air mattress. And yeah, they're all small.
And that's nice.
But I don't prefer the air mattresses.
With that, because a lot of you can take the ultralight backpacking gear that somebody, I mean, it can be a little bit pricey, but a lot of that stuff compacts so small because, you know, a lot of the ultralight backpacking, it's like, you know, they got to carry what they can on their back. So you can get a lot of gear for that, which can also be great for motorcycling.
This is a Yilang. Well, how do you say that? This is the cod I found. Fandango on the other side. It's 78.7 inches long, which is pretty much close to my height.
6'6".
Yeah, 78 inches. So I had to get the longer cod, but I mean that's how big it is. It's about the size of a little bit bigger than a football, and it's got some tie downs. I don't ever strap it on the outside of my bike, but it usually just goes in a tour pack.
So do you ever make the same mistake I made one time where you think your sleeping bag is going to be warm enough for where you're sleeping and you find out that it's not?
You know, being in Colorado, what I did is I just got the coldest weather sleeping bag I could possibly get. And I've never been too warm. Like if I'm too warm, I just throw my leg out of it. I unzip the sleeping bag. I'm laying there in half my gear anyways. But no, you can never have too warm of a sleeping bag. Mine even zips up over my head and it completely closes me in like a mummy bag. So
yeah, that's what I run now.
Whatever, it's waterproof.
Yeah, when I did the Monsters Over Mountains,
even waterproof.
I had a 30-degree bag, and I think the temperature that night when we stayed up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, was about 30. And yeah, I never got warm, even sleeping in all my clothes and everything. And so I said never again. So I came home and ordered a 0-degree mummy bag, and that goes everywhere now.
Well, here's a game changer for you. When you get heated gear, you can plug your heated gear in and turn it on, and just have a battery monitor that'll turn off when you get down to a certain battery level. But I've only a couple times turned on my heated gear and just shoved it inside my sleeping bag so that I'm warm enough. But yeah, no problem.
That's smart. Add another bonus to the heated gear.
Yep. And if you want to get good heated gear, I started on Cycle Gear's heated gear, and it's okay. It's not bad, but it doesn't last that long. So if you use it a lot, you'll wear it out. But they have a great warranty at Cycle Gear. But the one that I use now is called a Safe and Warm, and that's a really good heated gear system. Pretty durable, and it's got more of the little heated elements all over it. So yeah,
I think that might be something I look at. This is a backwoods Russian cream cigar. The flavor of them I love them.
Well, when we get together, I'll bring you Ezra Zion cigars. That's my favorite. Look up EzraZion.com. They make awesome cigars. It's a premium boutique cigar. These are my buddies we all went to church together in Texas. I'll have lunch with one of the owners of the cigar company next week, and Kyle will have a great time. The other, if you're a whiskey guy, look up Oaken Eden whiskey.
Open Eden?
Oaken Eden. They have a whiskey. Okay. They have a wood spiral that they put in their whiskey. It brings out some flavor. Joe is the Oaken Eden. Joe's the founder and president. I was just with him. I had dinner with him a couple nights ago here in Denver. Wonderful guy. I'll see him in Texas too. He's out of Westlake, Texas, but they're in like 17,000 stores or something like that.
I used to
I
like
think that's the number he told me.
Nicaraguans. Nicaraguans had some good cigars when I used to get some of the fancy ones too.
But if you like the flavored cigars, Cigar International has a coffee flavored cigar. It's like less than $2 a cigar. They're fantastic. They're usually sold out, so you got to watch for them. But Cigar International, it's a branded, it's like a factory brand Cigar International coffee cigar. That's one of my favorites.
I know Iowa Hog Rider Brad is a good friend of mine. I've heard about these guys from a few different people. Deadwood Tobacco Company, the Sweet Jane.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, Frank just bought a cot. That's funny. Yeah, I think I can build mine in about 20 seconds. Take it down and put it up in 20 seconds. It doesn't take long.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Springer Mike's got a good point. Chris Ledoux Whiskey, they have a bourbon that is phenomenal. I know when I
saw
went
him
over to
in
Hoka
concert
Hay
one time.
Me too. Chris Ledoux and the Bulls Only Rodeo. Me and Amy did. That was an awesome show. One of those artists that I was so glad I could see live. We were fortunate enough. I love comedy too. I mean, Amy and I do. We actually got to see Robin Williams live at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. That was probably, I'm going to age myself now, 20 plus years ago. That was one of the most amazing. I left the theater. I was in so much pain. My stomach and my ribs hurt so bad from laughing. Dear Lord.
Oh man, that's fun. That's fun.
Epic, though. The one I wish I could have seen would have been George Carlin. I would have loved to seen him live.
Yeah, he was really funny. I mean, at least we have the modern technology of video, right? So
yeah,
it's not the best, but it'll work.
Very true.
Nothing like seeing them live.
That is, man. Well, shoot, Gunnar, man, we're closing down in 2 hours. I'll go ahead. You got more, man. I'll keep going.
I'll hit a couple. You asked me some great questions, so thank you for your thoughtful questions. I'll hit
great
a couple
questions.
Of these fun ones. Yeah,
I think we hit like 6 or 7 of the questions, just because. I mean, which is great because I was looking forward to this because with your, what you do for a living, you do a lot of speaking. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great because, this is what you kind of do, and I come up with the questions, and honestly, I mean, we have probably. I'm up to maybe close to 20 or whatnot. And everything has just been great. I'm like, I think we've hit on like 6 questions, but that's what makes it great with some of these because you get somebody that loves talking or you can tell that does this and you have a passion for what you do. Plus, you throw in the motorcycle aspect of it and the conversation is just great. It just keeps flowing and flowing. And no, these type of episodes doing these is, it's so much fun. And the time just flies and it's like the conversation just keeps going.
Well, you're a great interviewer too, so appreciate all you're doing. But I'll hit some of these rapid fire, okay? So worst experience on 2 wheels. I was riding back from Arkansas on my CB750 when I was in high school. I'd done a college visit, and I got caught in a snow and ice storm, and I didn't have any of the right gear. I had gauntlet gloves, but they weren't even waterproof, and so I was soaking up everything. I just about froze to death on that ride. I literally laid down in several gas stations along the way just to thaw out. I got really sick. I ended up with hypothermia.
Geez.
I made it to Paris, Texas from Arkansas, which is East Texas, and was able to stay with my some of my family out there till I could recover enough to ride the rest of the way home. But I was shoving newspapers, everything inside my vest, inside my jacket to try to stop wind going through. Miserable. But I made it. I didn't die. We're fine. Favorite area to ride? Colorado. I moved from Texas to Colorado to do 2 things, ride motorcycles and ski. And so I picked this place because of its riding culture. And people don't realize this, but we get 300 days of sunshine. So I rode through ice and snow to get out of my driveway today, but it was perfect. No problem. And I ride all year round. There's literally no month I can't get out and ride. So it's no big deal.
So they don't use a lot of de-icer on the highways down there?
They don't. They use some sand type stuff and a magnesium silt that doesn't rust. It's a little slick and it kind of leaves a on your bike, but as long as you just ride cautiously and pay attention to what you're going through when you're in the corners, it's no big deal. It's fine.
See, up here they use like a brine liquid they put on the roads, and it is so corrosive that if you don't have the ability to wash your bike that day after you ride, you'll come out the next day, your aluminum and your chrome will be pitted and almost rusting the next day. That's why up here, when it gets cold, they put that brine down. You got to wait for a couple good days of rain to kind of clean it off the road, because if, your hose is frozen or whatnot, and you can't wash it, you're going to destroy your bike.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should deport some of our environmentalists to you guys, and then you won't have that problem, because they'll make sure you got some sort of eco-friendly stuff you put on the road. Who knows? But we don't have that issue here. They don't know how to do anything with ice in Texas, so just leave all the ice out there and let everybody crash on it.
Well, I've heard that a half-inch snow will shut down Texas.
Oh, absolutely. They don't have any equipment to stop, to clear the roads or whatever. Let's see. You asked another really great question. What's my dream ride? I've got two that I really want to do. I want to do the 48 and 10. And
me too.
I've actually got some map options. Definitely want to do that one. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's hitting all 48 states in 10 days. So you don't have to be in the state for very long, but you got to make sure you drive into the state border so that you don't have a 47 and 10. But
yeah, exactly. Good old Ken.
The other one I want to do is a True X, in and out of Lebanon, Kansas, to each of the four corners of the United States. I'd like to do a True X. That would be a lot of fun.
You know what's so funny? Okay, you talk about the True X. I had, this was 75 mileposts ago. I had Reef on, which you know who Reef is. Well, last year when we were doing the Monsters Over Mountains, we were about 30 miles west of Spokane, going through, I can't remember the town, started with a D. And my phone rings like you. I mean, I got the helmet comms and looked down. Well, it's Reef calling me, because before we started, the run, I put my spot walla on my Facebook. People want to follow along. Cool. You can see where we're going. And Reef called me because he was in Spokane. He was finishing his True X heading up to the corner. He's like, hey, I'm like 30 miles behind you. Let's go eat in Bellevue. I know a great barbecue place. I'm like, I don't have the time for that, but if you want to come a little farther, man, I would love to, do something. But it was so crazy from doing this, the friends you build. And it's like, 6 a.m, I'm getting a phone call from Reef. I'm like, what's this? This guy's a legend calling me. And I was like, holy cow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really fun. You asked another really good question. It'd be great for us to dialogue. It's kind of a wrap up. 5 tips for beginners in the LDR community.
And that's one I wanted to hit on before we finished.
Yeah. I'd say number 1, figure out where all the rides are. You gotta figure out what rides you want to do and where they are. That Jason Jonas website it's really good for that. But once you figure out what you want to ride, then you got to analyze I'd say number 2 is have the right equipment. I mean, you show up on the wrong motorcycle that can't run down the highway long, or has limitations. I mean, you can work around any of the limitations on a bike, but it's a lot of work. Like Chris Comley, he runs around on a Sportster doing IBR rides. He's got 350,000 miles on his Sportster. Maybe it's like 333,000. Ridiculous. But
crazy.
If you got the right bike, it's a lot easier. And then
but okay, if we touch on that for one moment, I think a guy can get, I mean, you look at touring, I like to think or any style, what fits your riding style. I like to think that you can take almost any bike as long as you set it up to fit you ergonomically. You get the right, do the right little add-ons, make the bike yours, make it fit to your comfort level. You can go ride wherever. I think it can fall back to earlier where we, mentioned ride within your means of what you can afford, but make it work for you. Just because, Joe Blow's riding a CVO or, somebody's got, whatever they're running, you don't got to break the bank to go out and see America. Enjoy the back roads, make it work. You can get a late model bike and make it fit you and just enjoy it. Go ride, see America, see places, and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, an older Goldwing, those aren't very expensive. You can get
an
Evo Harley will run forever. Not a lot of power, but they run great. I mean,
they'll
run a long time.
Early twin cams. I mean, both of you are running twin cams, and they are proven. You take care of them, keep up on your maintenance, and they're going to take care of you. Yeah, like Frank commented, we were in Davenport, Washington when Reef called.
Yeah, and then I'd say like third thing would be find you a good mentor that's in the LDR community. And most of the guys that are active in the long distance community, they'll tell you all they know. They'll chat with you about it. John Anderson lives down the road from me. He's a heck of a long distance rider. He's a financial advisor and has the time and means to ride a lot. That guy does like 60 to 80,000 miles a year. And he and I have gone to lunch a few times, and I've been over to his house a few times. He's been over to my house. I mean, I've hung out with him and just asked him all the questions, like all the basic questions about setup and route planning and rally planning and all the things that even down like, hey, what kind of pants are you wearing that you're not chaffing in and all that? These are serious questions, and, just find yourself a mentor. You didn't have to do it in person. Just, hit up someone on either Long Distance Riders, Long Distance Motorcycle fan page. I'll help you connect to someone that'll answer questions.
Go Home Ken is another great example of that.
Yeah, Ken's a wealth of information. And a lot of these guys post things. If you don't want to bother them, you're more introverted, you can find things that they've written on social media just by searching through Facebook. And you'll get into that world that way. And then I'd say the last thing on getting into the LDR community, just go do it. Walk into a room of strangers and tell them, hey, I'm new. And I had never ridden a rally, and I told Gary, the ride master of North by Northwest, I love to ride long distance, but you're gonna have to show me, like, teach me some stuff. And he was a wealth of information and made sure I connected with the right guys. I was there with John Anderson, so we roomed together. I got to know kind of his strategy for once you get your guidebook and you're going to plan out your scavenger hunt. I mean, there's a lot of guys will talk to you, but you got to get out there and actually enter one and do it, right? Like, are you doing the Hokahay in 2026? Are you talking about that?
I have considered it. It's kind of on the bucket list, but we'll see. I think I would love to try it to see if I have what it takes to finish it. I mean, with a ride like that, in my opinion, that is a serious mental and physical ride to see if, do you have what it takes? I mean, if I was to go and do it, I'm not looking to bust out in 10. If I could do, the 12 to 13 and a half days, that would be great. I would like to think that I have what it takes, but you never know. I mean, that's no easy ride. And it's not so much just a ride, but doing something that is turn-by-turn directions. You have to be there mentally to follow everything. And it's definitely would be a chore, but it would be amazing to say, hey, I've done this and I was able to do it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do 2026. I'm also wanting to build up my ride portfolio so I can get into the IBR. I've even considered riding some crazy motorcycle just to be able to get in on the hopeless class or something. But yeah, I mean, as time permits, I'm hoping to get more into the rally scene. But even not doing a lot of rallies, I'm still pushing 25 to 30,000 miles a year, and that's just on my own time. So
that's solid.
The more you ride, the more you figure it out. It's a lot, but the more you ride and the more you push yourself, the more you figure out what you can and can't do. And I don't ride tired. If I'm falling asleep, I pull over. I also don't ride stupid and ride fast. I mean, you used to, but
Yeah.
I want to be an old motorcycle rider, you know? I want to see my grandkids grow up and still be logging lots of miles.
Well, you talk about the IBR. Look at Long Haul Paul. Did it on a Ural.
Yeah. And it was a treacherous, I don't know how many engine rebuilds he had, but it was a lot. That was
building
a
a set of
treacherous ride.
Push rods in a hardware store parking lot. Holy cow.
Yeah. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But trying to think of other bikes that might not be quite as extreme as a Ural. But anyways,
I don't know if there is.
I don't know if there is either. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to ride a CX500 Honda in the IBR. I mean, those are bulletproof, but you got to rev the heck out of them to keep them running. Or even an old shovel head or something old Harley style. But all right.
Well,
but, yeah,
it's like Frank. He's doing his first Hoka Hey this year. He signed up and got accepted, so he'll be doing it this year.
awesome.
Key
Well, I wish I
West
could
to
see
Homer,
those
Alaska.
off. I wish I could go see them all off, but Key West from here is a long ways away, and I don't think I can get down there. I wanted to do 2024, but my daughter is pregnant, so I wasn't able to pull the trigger on that one. Her due date's in July, so this will be my first grandchild. Wasn't going to miss that for the world. Thank you, sir.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Gunnar.
letting me join you.
Oh man, this has been a blast, man. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I was really been looking forward to doing this because, I just from the bit of conversation we had on the phone, it's like, holy cow, we got to stop talking for a little bit because there were so many great points. It's like I got to try to remember these and make notes and stay here and try to relive some of the conversation, bring it back up again.
Well, that's kind of you. You're a great interviewer, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Man, thank you so much. So hang around for a minute, but hey, everybody, hey, thank you so much for tuning in tonight for Milepost 125. It's crazy it's gone this far, but man, for all you guys that follow along and listen and, tune in the comments, I can't thank you all guys enough. So till then, ride safe, have fun. We'll catch you in the crossroads.